Hi, everyone. So great to see you all. We're going to give it just a few minutes while people still join us. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Hi, welcome, everyone. We're just going to give it a few minutes while I still see people joining us. But thanks for taking the time today to join our webinar. We're excited to have everyone here. We'll just give it another minute or so as people are still joining. Okay, great. I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're excited to have you all here to talk about the application for the Master of Advanced Management, or the MAM program at the Yale School of Management. My name is Evelyn Wilson. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here for the MAM program, and I'm very happy to be here. And maybe I'll just hand it over to my colleague Matt quickly to introduce himself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Lassance. I'm the Assistant Director for Admissions here at the Yale School of Management. Excited to be on with everyone today and hope you're ready to learn a little bit more and get some good app tips.
Great, thanks, Matt. So again, we're here to talk about the application process for the Master of Advanced Management program at the Yale School of Management. The MAM program is a one-year degree program which is designed for MBA graduates, or students who are currently working towards an MBA. It has a very flexible curriculum, which we'll dive into a little bit more specifically in a moment. And it's really designed to complement your MBA studies. So we're also going to be saving some time at the end of this webinar to answer your questions. So please save those to the end, and you can use the Q&A feature to ask any questions that we might not have answered throughout this presentation. And we're also going to post our brochure in the chat for you during the webinar, so you can download that as well and learn more about the program. But we really want to focus on the application in this webinar today and give you all of our tips and tricks for how to create a successful application. So we're going to do a brief overview of the program at the beginning of the webinar, and then really focus in on each element of the application and give you some tips and tricks along the way. So with that, the mission at the Yale School of Management is to educate leaders for business and society. This is really something that we take to heart at Yale SOM, and we try and have this mission shine through in every area and every element of your experience at Yale SOM. We're really aiming to develop leaders who think critically about the big issues that business leaders are facing today, and to have students be able to think critically and consider multiple perspectives in finding solutions to those big issues. We're looking to bring students to SOM who have a deep sense of purpose in their work. And that really means that Yale SOM is a great place to connect with others who have this deep sense of purpose and who are doing really amazing work across all different disciplines. I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague Matt to talk a little bit about the opportunities in the curriculum and a brief overview of the application process.
Thank you, Evelyn. So let's talk a little bit about some of the opportunities and maybe why this program would be good for you. So the MAM offers some great opportunities to really take advantage of a little bit more education and a little bit more of a deep dive, or a little bit more knowledge on topics that you may be interested in. So you've gotten your MBA, and now you're looking to maybe dive a little bit deeper. And you really have an opportunity to go extraordinarily deep with some of the world's leading professors and teachers on a number of different topics. And as we'll see in just a minute, the curriculum will kind of show you a little bit more about that. You also have the opportunity to have extraordinary breadth. So you can explore a wide range of different topics and areas of interest that will help complement your MBA degree and also help maybe round out or close out some of those skill gaps you feel you need to close out. What do you get when you complete your degree? 2 networks and 2 brands. You've completed your MBA at a top business school, and now you're also going to have Yale School of Management on your resume. So you have both networks available to you, both brands behind you. You also have the opportunity for global careers. As Evelyn mentioned, we have a very strong mission. We really try to globalize our students and make sure that they are set up for a global career, helping the greater society. And then a community with purpose. Again, going back to our mission, we really focus on that mission of educating leaders for business and society. It's something that I know Evelyn mentioned right from the start, and it really does start from the top and goes all the way down to our students who truly believe in that mission. So as I was talking about, the MAM curriculum is really open to exploration. As you'll see in the yellow, you have your 4 units of required courses. So those courses are global leadership, topics in business and society, global leadership in personal and interpersonal effectiveness. And then, as many of you might know from previous webinars, you have 36 units of elective credits. Those credits can be used on one of the more than 170 elective courses at SOM, or you have the opportunity to go outside SOM and learn from leading professors at any of Yale's other 12 professional schools, and then the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So there's a lot of opportunity to take courses across SOM and across the Yale community, which really gives you that opportunity to round out your skill set or dive deep into something you're interested in. Now, the management science concentration or the STEM concentration is another option for our students. You would complete a minimum of 16 credit units of eligible courses. These courses would focus typically on applying quantitative methods to challenges in business and management. And one of the nice pieces to this is you aren't just tailored to a set number of courses. There's 26 different elective options that you can choose from. So it gives you a lot of opportunity there. You would declare this concentration during the application process. And then if eligible, there's an opportunity potentially to have your 1-year OPT or optional practical training extended because of STEM. So you'd get an additional 2-year STEM extension, potentially giving you 3 years of work permission in the US upon graduation. All right, and then looking at sort of our wheel here, you're going to see in yellow, the 4 units of required courses. And then in white, you'll see the management science concentration courses. So those are your STEM courses that you get to choose from the 26 available options. And then if you see in blue, you still have 20 units of elective courses. So again, those can be courses at any of Yale's 12 graduate schools across campus, the School of Arts and Sciences. And then on top of that, you still have over 170 elective options here at SOM to choose from. So you really still get a great opportunity to take a lot of electives and a lot of those courses focusing in a number of different areas of interest. Now, what does our application look like? And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of these in a minute. So you go onto our website, you would complete our online application. There are a few essay questions, usually between 250 and 300 words. You would submit your most up-to-date resume. You would include transcripts from any of your schools that you've attended, GMAT or GRE test score. You would get a letter of recommendation from a professional source, a letter of support from your dean or director of your MBA program. Once you've completed and submitted that, you would pay the $95 application fee and video questions would be sent through. There are 3 of them. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete. There's no real preparation that needs to go into that. And then If all goes well and your your application is selected, you would be invited to an interview via Zoom. And now we'll see the application deadlines. Round 1, which is open to only GNAM school students, which closes on January 4th. And then our second and third rounds, which will close on February 21st and April 9th. Now, we understand that affording your MAM, this is, a post-MBA program, and it does cost a little bit. So the cost of tuition, $82,700. Living expenses, we kind of calculated roughly based on numbers we had, was about $32,116. And we understand this is a lot, and it is an investment in your future career and your future. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of, still getting into things and hopefully using this degree to help take that next step in your career. And we also have a lot of different funding options. So upon admission and submission of your application, you're automatically eligible for and would be reviewed for merit-based scholarships. Then you are able to apply for need-aware scholarships once admitted to the program. And then on top of that, we do work with a number of international student loan providers. There are a number of other scholarships that can be looked into, and then on-campus student employment opportunities are available. So there are a number of ways that we try to tailor a package to each student to make the MAM affordable for them.
Great. Now that you've heard a lot more about the program and our application process, we're going to dive into each of these elements in more detail and share with you more information and how we're kind of looking at each of these elements in the application. Just a reminder that we're going to be reserving some time at the end for questions and answers. So save your questions because we might answer them throughout this process, but towards the end, you can feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask us your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So let's talk about the first element of the application, the essays. So as Matt mentioned earlier, the essays are really quite short. The word cap is about 250 to 300 words for each of these essays. So let's take a look at each of them. The first essay question reads, Yale SOM's mission statement is to educate leaders for business and society. You have a strong foundation in business. How will the MAM program improve your impact on society? So this is really an opportunity for you to connect with our mission. Share with us what our mission means to you and how do you connect with this mission in a personal way. We want to hear your reasoning for why you're applying to the MAM program and how this program will impact your decisions moving forward. Connect the dots for us between your MBA, the MAM, and the mission. So why do all of these things make sense together for you and your career path? Essay number 2, how do you think artificial intelligence will affect the way we conduct business? How will it affect your role personally and the way you approach your work? So this is really an opportunity to tie in our mission with your goals and the way that you approach your work. So it would be great if you can include any experience that you've had working with artificial intelligence, but if you don't have any, that's perfectly fine as well. There's not really any specific answer or anything that we're looking for in this question. We're really just interested in learning more about you and how you approach things and how you think your industry of work is going to be developing over the next few years with artificial intelligence. Remember to be authentic and to use your own voice for all of these essays as well. That's really important. So essay 3, what were your short and long-term goals when you started your MBA, and how will the MAM program influence or change these goals? This is an opportunity to really expand on what you're passionate about. Tell us if there are any skill gaps in your skill set that you need to fill, and why does the MAM program make sense for you? Of course, share with us more about your goals so we can really get to know what you're looking to do, both in the short and the long term, and why you need the MAM program to do that. Again, connect the dots for us. Why do you need the MAM program to achieve your goals? Why is an MBA not good enough? Why do you need this program to really achieve what you're looking to do? Overall, I think it's important to remember, again, like I mentioned earlier, to be authentic in all of your essay questions. Um, this is really an opportunity for us as the committee to evaluate how you formulate an argument or you come to a point in written language. So remember the basics too. Proofread your work. Spell check doesn't catch everything. And just answer the question directly and try not to go off on any tangents. They're short essays, so you don't have a lot of time. So stick to the point and make sure that you are talking about, what you want to and how you're going to answer the question best. Great. Transcripts. So these are also important, of course, in your application. And this is really the way that we're able to assess your potential for academic success in a rigorous MAM program. So we need to have a transcript from each degree granting institution that you have attended in your academic history. So of course, that's your undergrad, your MBA as well. Even if you are working towards your MBA right now, you can send us your first semester grades or your initial transcript. And if you don't have your grades completed yet, that's also fine. Just include a list of courses that you're taking so that we have a good understanding of what you're currently working on. And then you can always send in application updates once you have your transcripts from your first semester as well. Also, if you've gone on exchange or you transferred at any point during your academic career, we're going to need to see those transcripts as well, just so that we have a full picture of your academic history. Unofficial transcripts are absolutely fine until enrollment, but it's helpful for us if you can get your school to print something themselves, and then you can send us a scan or a photocopy. Any of those are fine. But what we're really looking for in each of the transcripts is it needs to include your name, the school's name, evidence of successful completion, either of the program or courses and the grades that you received in each of those courses. And importantly as well, if your transcript is not in English, please have it translated into English and notarized just to make sure that we are able to read it successfully as well. Again, this is how we're going to be able to assess your ability to complete an academically rigorous course. And so that, along with the test scores, are really how we're going to be able to assess you academically. Okay, I'm going to hand this back to Matt to talk about test scores.
Thank you, Evelyn. So test scores, we do require a GMAT or GRE, or we will be accepting the new GMAT Focus. I know that's, I believe, upcoming or may have recently been released. So we do require a test score when you apply for the MAM program, and we will accept any of those. Test scores are really a good opportunity to show the committee you're capable of success in our curriculum, using something recent to help us understand your skill set and abilities. So we do look at it. It's one piece of your application, so don't get too caught up on the importance of having the perfect score. We take a look at that, but we also look at your resume and all of the other pieces that we're talking about today to really see who is this individual and what makes them unique, special, and a good fit for the program. And please be sure to have your test score sent to the MAM program at Yale SOM. And our test IDs can be found on our website. We don't require TOEFL or anything like that, so don't worry about those, but we do require this test score. And if you didn't take an exam to enter your MBA program, that's okay. There's still plenty of time to take the GMAT or GRE. Don't stress about if you haven't taken it just yet. Take the time to complete your application when it's ready and when you may have the best test score. I know a number of students have said, should I take another test, or is this score high enough, this, that, and the other? We will look at any score you provide us with. If you feel confident with your score, apply for the program. If you don't feel confident, take the opportunity to take another test. We have seats that we fill in rounds 1, 2, and 3. So we're always open to seeing what you have to offer. So really make sure you're applying when you feel confident with your scores and everything else. So next, we're going to look at the resume or CV. And so it's a snapshot of your professional experience. And oftentimes, this piece, I think, tends to be a little bit overlooked. It's easy to just upload something you've used in the past and maybe haven't updated as much recently or haven't taken as deep of a look into it. So 1 to 2 page maximum in length. We don't want to be reading multiple pages, and we really want to see sort of quickly, what have you done? Maybe a couple bullet points for what you did in those experiences. Make sure that you include all of your work experience to date, and then focus on the achievements, the value that you added rather than just a list of responsibilities. You can add a little bit extra description especially if you work for a small or foreign company that we may not have heard of. Definitely include a little bit of information just so we have a better understanding of maybe what you did, what that company does. We definitely take a look at all of those pieces. And then it's okay to include activities that are important to you. In that, I know oftentimes people have interests or hobbies or things like that, and it definitely helps us get to know a little bit more. Don't include, half the page of them, but it's okay to include a few of those so we can really see and learn a bit more about you. And then one piece that's very important is to include proof of employment. Any of the roles without proof of employment are not going to be considered part of your application. We are going to take a look at that. We want to see either a contract or an internship or work experience certificate, something that can show and prove your employment there or your work experience there. And we can definitely take a look at things to make sure they look good, but we do need to see that if you want it to be considered. And then also important to note, if it was unpaid or a part-time position, things like that, make sure it's noted in your in your resume. This is something that you'll see in the list of instructions, but just to reiterate this, it is important that we're able to see what the role was, and make sure that that role was not embellished, changed, anything like that. We want to see exactly what you did so that when if you are admitted and go through the background check process, they're going to find the matching information quickly, easily, and it hopefully will be a painless process. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Evelyn.
Thanks, Matt. Great. Now we're going to talk about the letters of recommendation. So this is an important part of your application, and we do require at least one professional recommendation letter from a current or previous supervisor. Ideally, it would be coming from your direct supervisor, but the most important thing is for you to choose a reference who can really speak to your character, your performance, your professional potential, and successes that you've had. Titles are less critical, so it doesn't matter as much who the person is. It matters more that they know you well and that they can talk clearly about you and tell us some great stories about their work experience with you. Make sure that you request this letter well in advance and give your recommender plenty of time to write their recommendation letter and submit it to us. It's really important that the letter comes directly to us from your recommender. They need to use their professional email address to submit their recommendation. We do not accept personal email addresses like Gmail, Yahoo, QQ, anything like that. We're going to come back to you and ask them to submit it again. Some employers have a firewall that blocks the prompt that we send out to recommenders to request their letter of recommendation. And if that's the case, then just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll work with your recommender for them to be able to submit it to us in a different way. But again, it's really important that the letter comes directly from your recommender to us. Of course, the recommendation letter needs to be submitted by the application deadline for us to be able to have a complete application for you and to be able to review everything in a timely process. All right, we also require a letter of recommendation from your dean or director. This is probably going to be your MBA director at your school. But it's a good idea to check in with your MBA program to make sure that you're getting the right person to write this letter for us. What we're really looking for is for somebody from your school to confirm that you were a good citizen of the school and that you performed well in your program, that you contributed to your program, and that, again, that you were a good citizen of the school. So it's kind of a character reference here that we're looking for. Again, request this letter from them well in advance so that they have plenty of time to put it together. And again, it needs to be submitted by the deadline for us to review. One thing that we can mention as well, I know that often supervisors or colleagues that you might be working with are really busy. So sometimes people recommend that you draft your own letter and that they kind of just send it off. And if this happens to you, then we really recommend that it's time for you to find a new recommender. You definitely want to be sure that you are asking somebody who has adequate time to put in to create a really good letter of recommendation for you, and that it's really something authentic that's sharing their experience working from you. So just keep that in mind as you are thinking about who you're going to ask to write your letters of recommendation. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Matt to talk about the video questions.
Thanks, Evelyn. So video questions. So once you've completed your application and submitted, you've paid the fee, they will be available to you. You'll get 3 video questions. We have a number of different questions that will kind of get sent to you. So it'll be 3 random ones. You'll answer them all in one sitting, no retakes, don't refresh the page, things like that. I know sometimes there can be mechanical errors. If there is, let us know. That way we can take a look. But you'll get 3 questions, and we use this to, one, evaluate communication skills, and kind of see a little bit more into the thought process, learn a little bit more about you. There's really no preparation required. Don't read, don't try to say the right thing. Just be yourself, be authentic, really try to showcase, who you are, and, go through, don't try to find the perfect answer, I guess would be a good way to put it. There is no perfect answer to any of these questions. We really are assessing your authenticity and just trying to learn a little bit more about you and get a better sense of why you're interested in the program, how you think, and again, evaluate your communication skills. And then optional information. So there is optional information, and it's not an opportunity to write or submit another essay. We don't want a submission that is a page, 2 pages, 3 pages long that really isn't necessary and is just kind of expanding on why you want the program. Use this as an opportunity to address anomalies, unanswered questions, clarify academic history, things that maybe the committee might see or might take note of and have questions about. So examples might be an odd career or resume shift. Maybe there's a gap in your resume. Maybe you had a semester where you weren't doing too well in your MBA program, and use that to explain what happened, maybe how you went about fixing it or working forward from it. Use it as that opportunity. Don't use it as an opportunity to just expand upon why you're interested in the program and what you think the program is going to do for you.
Great. Okay, now as promised, we're going to leave the floor open for questions. So please use the Q&A feature to ask us any questions that you might still have after we've kind of gone through each element of the application and a bit more detail about the program as well. So it looks like we have a few here that try and get to, but again, please feel free to submit anything else that you might be wanting to ask through the Q&A feature just now. So one student or one person is asking about the GRE. They took the test about 3 years ago and they're asking if they need to take it again. The answer is no. So you can use the test score that you used to apply for your MBA program. That's perfectly fine. We know that GRE or GMAT test scores do have an expiration date, and we will accept tests, even if they have expired, as long as they're not too old. So I would say 3 years is perfectly fine. If anyone has test scores that are older than that, or that you're not sure about whether we would still accept them, always feel free to email us at advanced.management@yale.edu, and we'll be happy to look at your case individually. There's another question kind of asking the same thing about expired test scores, so I think we just answered that. And Matt, feel free to jump in as well if you're reading faster than I am.
So I'm seeing one here about work experience and kind of, let's see, recommended work experience in years or sectors which are more relevant to MAM. So not one is not more relevant than the other. I think just getting a better understanding of your work experience, what sectors, if you're looking to make a career pivot, I think an explanation in kind of that career goals and how you hope to make that pivot or transition would always be good. In terms of how much work experience, I believe we didn't have it in this one, but I believe it's an average of about 7 years work experience, if I'm not mistaken. We do recommend typically trying to get into the program within 3 years of completing your MBA, just because that academic material and all of that stuff is still fresh in your mind, hopefully. So we do recommend that, but there isn't really you don't need to have 7 years work experience. That's just an average. And that could be someone that has 2 or 3 years and someone that has, I think that would be about 10 or 11 years to average out to that 7-year total. So we will take a look at that. You don't need to have a set amount. There is a minimum, but most of our students surpass that without a problem.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Kind of related to this question, there's a question here that I'm seeing about age and if somebody might be too old to take the program. The answer would be no. This is really a personal choice. The average age of our MAM students tends to be around 31. So as Matt mentioned, this is really kind of like a post-experience program. Students, of course, have an MBA as a prerequisite to joining the program, but they tend to have at least 7 years or around 7 years work experience as well. But again, that really depends on the student's unique situation. So again, the question about age, that's really a personal preference and is up to you of, would you like to go back to school? And is this really going to help you achieve the next stage in your career? The only thing I would mention about that is we recommend that your MBA curriculum is kind of fresh in your mind. So if you completed your MBA quite a while ago, then it might be a good idea to kind of explain in your application how you're going to refresh your memory or how these skills and kind of MBA knowledge that you gained from your MBA program is relevant in your work, in your everyday work experience, so that you're still, that those skills and those topics aren't kind of really far buried in your brain and are not going to be it's not going to be difficult for you to kind of re-enter the classroom after a long time and become a student again. So that might be a good place, as Matt mentioned, the optional information section in the application, that might be a good thing to kind of mention there about how how you're going to refresh yourself. Are there any online courses that you might take before joining the MAM program to kind of refresh your mind and your memory of your MBA curriculum? Hopefully that helps there.
And I'm seeing one about when it comes to GMAT, do you look at each section, percentiles as well, and kind of the overall? So when we're looking at GRE, GMAT, all of that, we look at the score, we look at the percentile, we look at all of those pieces of it. And again, that's just one component of your overall application. So you're not just your score. We do look at that, as you saw, the resume, the video questions. We take all of that into consideration. So, I'm seeing they may have come about scored a little bit lower in verbal. So the video questions and your essays, those are great opportunities to kind of show, those skills that maybe you have, and it can always kind of say, oh, well, maybe that verbal was a bit lower on the test score, but their English is very good, or their communication skills are great in the essays and in the video questions. So all of those things can kind of offset or help and whatnot. I would say if you're a little bit worried about it, there's still plenty of time to try and raise that up if you'd like, but don't stress too much about those scores being too low. We look at all of those pieces of your application to kind of see, was it maybe a bad day taking the test? Was it, something else? Or yeah, so we really take a look at a lot of those things. And then one other one that I wanted to touch on, because I'm seeing two questions about, it looks like, I'm assuming the recruiting process is referring to employment, and I'm seeing one about employment statistics. So this would be something you would probably have to look more at the CDO or Career Development Office's website for a little bit more information on. One of the pieces to this is we have a wonderful career development office that works with all of our students. They start working with students in, I want to say it's July or August of the year that you're interested or that you're going to be coming. And they start helping with resume, cover letter, all of those pieces. It's important that you start working on those pieces when they message you. So when you get on campus, you can hit the ground running. But they continue to work with students throughout the year. You are going to be in the recruiting, I guess, process with second year MBAs who are also looking for jobs and employment. When it comes to employment statistics, I think we have a little bit different of a situation than, say, MBA or any of the other programs, because we are so global. So we have students that are looking for jobs across the world in all different sectors. So students are coming here for the MAM program often to make a pivot, make a change, and so they may be going back to a home country or a new country looking for employment. They may be starting their own entrepreneurial venture. Same thing when it comes to, because I often know that salary follows this question. When it comes to salaries, some of our students, because they are starting their own venture, may not be making as much. Some of our students have more years of experience, and they're using this degree to sort of fine tune those final skills that'll hopefully push them from management to like a CEO type of position or something a little bit higher up. So our students are in much different positions. So when it comes to sort of those numbers, we don't have the exact numbers or details on hand or available. But our students do work hard, and our CDO works very hard with students to try and make sure that every opportunity is explored. One thing too, to kind of add on to this, don't do this program with the intention of staying in the United States upon graduation. That is a potential opportunity, but it is not something that you should be doing this program under an assumption that you're going to get a degree from Yale and now every job in the US will be open to you. There is potential opportunity, but it is not a guarantee. And we want to make sure that's clear to students that are interested in this program, because we don't want anybody doing it for just that opportunity in the US. I don't know if there's anything you want to expand on there, Evelyn. I talked for a minute or two.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thanks for covering all of those bases. I think you did a really good job kind of synthesizing everything, and definitely want to agree with the point that you made that working in the US may be a possibility for some students after graduation, but this definitely should not be the reason that you come and take the MAM program. It can be very difficult for a student to find a job in the US after graduation, and many of our students who are interested in working in the US find it easier to go internationally first, directly after graduation, and then come back to the US after. Maybe, transferring through an international office or something like that can be an easier way to a job in the US. So it's definitely something that's not guaranteed, and we want to be really upfront and clear about that with all applicants before we get too far down the road, and we don't want students coming here under false guises. So thanks for mentioning that. I see a couple of questions here about recommendation letters, both from your professional sources and from your dean or director. So just want to kind of touch on these for a moment. An applicant is asking about whether it might be possible to use the same professional recommendation letter or recommender as they use to apply for their MBA program. That should be perfectly fine. It's up to you who you'd like to use as your professional recommender. Again, it should just be somebody who knows you well, who you worked closely with, and who can really talk about their experience working with you and your professional potential. So that should be fine if you've already used that recommender for your MBA program. We haven't seen that recommendation letter, so it could potentially save them a little bit of work if they've already written a really great recommendation letter for you. There's another question here about the letter of support from the dean, the college dean. So remember, this might not necessarily come from the dean themselves. It's more likely going to be your program director. So your MBA program director would be great. But again, you can probably talk with your program to find out who the best person would be to write this letter for you. We don't have a fixed template for this letter, but again, we're really just looking for them to talk about your contributions to the program, that you are a good student and that you are a good citizen of the school, and that you contributed and did well in the program there. So there's not really any kind of template that we have for you to work from, but it should come directly from the dean or director to us. So they should use their professional or their university or college email address to send us their recommendation letter directly.
So I'm seeing one on how many students are selected from UBC, or I'm going to say in general from a particular school. So it really depends. I think we have a number of different schools that we've partnered with for different programs. So sometimes there are more students from those schools because they typically hear more about the program or may have more opportunity to hear about the program. But we really vary year over year. I would say every year we have students from all across the globe. I think on our normal info session webinar, you see, I think we've got 80 different countries that students have come from in the time of the program. And those 80 countries, there's over, I want to say probably over 100, if not way over 100 different schools that they've come from across the globe. So I don't know. I know we typically get applicants from UBC, or maybe I'm thinking of our M10 program, but I know we do get applications from UBC students. I don't know how many. It changes year over year depending on how many students are interested in the program.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think that's exactly right. It really depends on the year. But obviously we welcome all of those applicants as well. So definitely encourage you to look into that as well. Another applicant is asking again about the recommendation letters that we mentioned. We should be receiving a letter from a recent employer. Does that mean that pre-MBA recommendation letters might not be so recent? I think that's again up to you. If you send in a recommendation letter from something that's in your ancient history, then that's probably not going to look as relevant to us. But it doesn't have to be your most recent employer. If you've recently started a new job, or you haven't worked somewhere as long as, or you feel that somebody in one of your previous roles just knew you better and worked more closely with you, that's fine. It doesn't have to be your most recent employer. It's really up to you to kind of figure out that kind of balance between more recent experience versus, who you might like to ask. So there's not really a right or wrong answer there.
I'm seeing one. How can students who are not from global network schools put their best foot forward? So the global network schools, of course, as I mentioned, we do kind of have that connection, but there's no real difference when it comes to students applying. Round one is open exclusively to them, but rounds 2 and 3 are open to everybody. There is no difference. They don't get a pass on any piece of the application. They have to apply just the same way that any other student would have to apply and go through the process. They would submit the same application. I think really just showcasing who you are, why you're interested in the program. Just because a student is from a global network school, it doesn't put them on a higher pedestal or have us thinking differently about them versus another student. It's really how you showcase yourself and how you best showcase what you're interested in, why you want the program, and how you feel, the program fits you. And I saw another one while I was looking. If career goals are changing from past experiences, does that matter? And it doesn't, it doesn't. I think it does in terms of talk about it, explain maybe why you are making this career change. We want to know why you want to make this change, what you think is going to help you about the program. Are there particular classes, hint, hint? Those types of things are going to really help us understand why you want to make this pivot and can definitely help showcase a little bit more about you and your interests. Does it matter to us also? No, if you're looking to make a transition and maybe you don't have as much experience in that, I think that's one thing in the career goals section then. Don't say, well, I want to go from, trying to think of two things here, but don't say you want to go from theater to CEO of a business. But if you say I'm, interested in the arts and theater and I want to, start learning more about the management side of it and get, into that in the short term and hopefully work my way up, that's going to make a lot more sense. But does it matter to us? No, we understand this is a program that allows that depth or the breadth to really learn some new things and maybe make that career pivot. And we're not going to judge a student who wants to make that pivot or make that transition. So it doesn't matter. Hopefully that helps answer that question a little bit. I don't know if there's anything you can expand on there, Evelyn.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think you did a great job. Again, just kind of explain to us what your motivation is and why this makes sense for you, and be realistic about what it's going to mean for you. So you're probably, as Matt said, you're not going to be able to kind of go either directly across or go up into a new industry or a new field. You might have to kind of go back down in terms of the hierarchical ladder, just to kind of make a switch into a different industry. So be realistic about that in your goals as well, and kind of recognizing that fact as well. I'm seeing a question here about the STEM concentration, and if you are unsure of whether you want to kind of pursue the STEM concentration or not. So this is a really great question because you do need to um, identify or declare that you want to take the STEM concentration in the application process if this is something that's interesting to you. So I would say that it's probably better to be safe than sorry, right? If you think that this might be a potential area that you'd like to pursue, I think it's probably better to declare it. And then you can either not complete it. So that means not taking all 16 of the required STEM certified courses. You can still obviously finish the program successfully. You just wouldn't get your STEM concentration. I think that the Office of International Students and Scholars can also help to advise students on this. But again, I think it's better probably to declare the concentration if you think that you might want to go down this route, just so that you have the option. We don't have a list of courses that are not included in the STEM concentration. Of course, what we do have is a list of courses and a list of STEM courses, so you can kind of compare them and then figure out the courses that are not included in the STEM concentration that way, kind of the backwards way. But yeah, there's definitely plenty of options, both for STEM certified classes, but many more options for you that are not STEM certified. So yeah, something to think about as you're compiling your application. And I would again say better to be safe than sorry, but it's again something that our Office of International Students and Scholars, or OISS, can also help advise you on if you would like more information about that.
Uh,
Another person is asking about reapplications and whether the optional information section is a good place to kind of present how their profile and how their application has evolved from the previous application. I would say that that's a great use of the optional information section. We always encourage reapplicants. So if you've applied in the past and didn't get into the program, show us what's changed, what's new with you, what new experiences have you gathered, or did you complete your MBA program with flying colors, or kind of how is your application this time different? And if you can expand on that for us in the optional information, that's great. We'd love to hear about that and how you think you are now a better applicant than the last time you applied to the program. So hopefully that helps, and we look forward to seeing your application again.
So I'm seeing one here. If someone knows day one that they are looking for a job in a different market, potentially looks like the Middle East, does CDO also help with those? So our CDO works with students to try and find them a job wherever they're looking. Again, there's no guarantee on a particular job markets change, opportunities, all that sort of stuff. The other piece is sometimes they have more connections in places, sometimes they have less connections in places, but they will work hard with you to try and set you up for every possible opportunity to find a job in a market you're interested in, and really work with you to develop all that. If you know a little bit about that job market, it certainly helps to kind of bring that along, and potentially if you have connections or anything like that, it can definitely help make it a little easier. But they will work hard with students regardless of where they're interested in looking and all of that. And then one thing, because I saw another one that was about overlooking things on the resume and any mistakes to avoid. And I think this would be a good one for us. So I think first and foremost, spelling. It's sometimes surprising. We see a number of spelling mistakes on things. I would say dates and position titles. If you are an intern, you can say you're an intern. We're not going to judge that. It looks a lot better saying intern rather than, I'm going to say, strategy consultant, when really you are a strategy consultant intern. It's going to kind of look a little sketchy when it comes back saying you were an intern, you weren't a full-time consultant. If a position was part-time, make note of that, because oftentimes part-time assistant is definitely different than intern. And then a big thing too is make sure you have some sort of proof of employment. Our background check company does a very good job, very thorough job. And that sometimes is where things get tripped up or questions come up. Really make sure that you've got, a contract, you've got some sort of documentation, something to basically show that, yes, I've worked there, yes, I've had this experience, and there aren't any questions or issues there. I would say some of those are the big ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure Evelyn may have another one.
Yeah, I agree with all of the things that you just mentioned, Matt. And I would also say be concise. It can be really hard for us to read, a 3-page long resume that has tiny words all the way up to the end of the margins. Some resumes are just really robust, and I think it's kind of hard for us to sift through those. So keep in mind, try and be concise, um, and see how, if you can cut down your resume a little bit into 1 page or 2-page max, that's definitely preferable. Okay, we have another couple of questions, and then I'm also conscious of time, and I want to give a final piece of advice to all of you, both from me and from Matt, just kind of from our experience reading all of these great applications and how you can make yourself stand out. So we have one person is asking about how many applications we receive and what percentage of applications we accept. So we don't share those statistics. Mainly because over the last couple of years, we have opened up the MAM applications to non-global network schools as well. So of course, now we're getting more applications and from a wider array of schools represented. So it's not really comparable. And I think it ranges year on year as well. But what we can say is that this is a competitive program. So make sure that you're kind of compiling your best application, putting your best foot forward, take your time in the application. And again, just make sure that you remember the basics, remember to proofread, make sure there's no spelling mistakes anywhere, and that everything looks as good as it can in your impression, in your application. We also have a question about somebody who would like to use a recommender who has recently retired and that they don't any longer have a corporate email address. So this is something that comes up every year. I think best case scenario for us would be maybe if you can find a different recommender who does have a corporate email address that they can send their recommendation to directly. If you really would like to use somebody who has recently retired, then reach out and let us know. And we will try and work with you to figure out the best way for them to submit their letter of recommendation for you. Again, our email address is advanced.management@yale.edu. So just reach out to us anytime and we can talk about your case specifically. All right. So with that, I think that is all of the questions that we received so far. So I just want to give a final piece of advice from both of us. So Matt, can I put you on the spot? Do you want to go first and share your piece of advice for all of these interested applicants?
Sure. So I think my final piece of advice would really be plan ahead. Deadlines can often sneak up on you, and we may not be able to move forward with an applicant if your application's not yet complete. This is something I can say we have students that have applied at the last minute of round 3 and have been admitted. It's not recommended. Definitely plan ahead, try to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. I think same goes for asking for letters of recommendation. Make sure you've asked the recommender ahead of time. You've reviewed all of your documents. You've made sure you have all your proofs of employment, all of that sort of stuff, so that when you go to submit, you can submit, feel comfortable that everything's in and there's nothing to worry about. And make sure that with that, and you've planned ahead, have a good understanding of what the program is, what it can offer, and what you can gain from it. I think knowing that, taking the time to think about those things, and again, plan ahead for those essays that we talked about, it can really help you present the best application, give the best essay, or write the best essays, and give the best presentation in your video questions. I don't know if you have a final piece of advice, Evelyn.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with planning ahead, but I would say my final piece of advice is to really be authentic and remain true to who you are. Through this application, we're really looking to get to know you and what makes you unique. Connect the dots for us. Why does the MAM program make sense for you? Why do you need this program? What will you be gaining from it? How is it going to help you in your next career move? Again, be authentic and show us who you are through your application and why this is the right program for you. Also, just a quick one that I just have to throw in there. Follow instructions. Read the instructions carefully in the application and make sure that you follow them. Sometimes we see applicants make silly mistakes and we don't want that to be you. So just make sure that you're reading everything carefully. Again, read those essay questions carefully and make sure that you're answering the questions and don't get caught up in kind of silly things like that. I think,
And can I add one more thing?
yeah, please.
So I think we might have touched on it here and there, but again, apply when you feel confident in your application. I think you can do all these things and prepare and whatnot, but feel confident in your application. If I'm going to use a GNAM student in this case, so if you're a GNAM student and you feel like round 1, you feel confident, comfortable, everything's there for your application and you're ready to apply, that's great. If you feel like there's something you maybe want to work on or you're not 100% on, it's okay to apply in rounds 2 and 3. We have seats available in every round. We don't have a cap, which is nice. So we really look at students in every round. And if you're a good fit for the program, a good student, and someone that is going to be successful, there's an opportunity at Yale SOM for you. So apply when you feel confident and ready with your application. Don't just apply in the earliest possible round because you think it's going to give you the best opportunity to get ahead.
Exactly. Thanks, Matt. I was just looking there. It looks like we have one more question that came in through the Q&A feature. This person is asking about advice for applicants who work with employers who do not allow employees to submit recommendations for other employees. So I think it would be great if you can approach a supervisor or somebody in a supervisory role who could maybe submit an application or letter of recommendation for you. And if this isn't applicable for you, then see if you can find somebody else, maybe from another work experience that you might have. It's really important for us to get a professional letter of recommendation from one of your previous employers or current employer, so that we can really get a sense of what it's like to work with you and what your potential, your professional potential is as well. So again, if you have questions, we can help maybe look at your case specifically, reach out to us over email, and we can talk more specifically about that with you. So hopefully that helps. Okay, great. And with that, I think we'll wrap up. We're right on time, but we have a couple of QR codes to share with you. Here on the left-hand side, we have a QR code to our website. So please take a look at that. There's plenty of information on there. There's more information about the application and of course a link to our application directly that you can go to directly from the website there. We also are going to have some more upcoming events in January and in February. We'll be having a student panel webinar in January, so you can hear directly from our current MAM students about their experience with the program, and any tips from them as well. And then another application tips webinar in February. We're still working on setting those dates for both of those, but stay tuned on our website and we'll have those published shortly. Again, feel free to reach out to us at any time at advanced.management@yale.edu. We're always happy to talk with prospective students and applicants about your application, about anything we can do to help make sure that you are presenting your application in the best way, or any questions that you might have. We're happy to talk through that on an individual case with you as well. So thank you again for attending today, and thank you to Elena, who is working the magic behind the scenes. She's posted our brochure in the chat, so feel free to download that, take a look at it in your own time as well to learn more about the program. And again, thank you for your time today and learning more about the application process for the Masters in Advanced Management program. Hopefully we'll talk to you all soon and look forward to seeing your applications.